Hey everybody, welcome back to our next installment of the Social Media Jumpstart. Our last episode was pretty cool. I'm Kenny Jang and this is Jay Cranda. We are ready to dive into our next platform, which is Twitter. Twitter is something I think everyone in the world, just like Facebook, has heard of.
Yeah.
But not everyone has been on Twitter yet, as the Twitter, as they call it sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes, the Twitter tweet. Yeah, you got to be careful. It's not, a twat or anything. Twitter is so important because over 1/5 of the internet users are on Twitter already.
It's crazy.
It's a highly active, and it's grown over by 50 million over just the last year, and there's 280 million active users on Twitter. So that means most likely in your community, the people you're trying to engage with are on Twitter, are using Twitter.
Yeah.
And when you even look at the people that are on Twitter, like people like Katy Perry, Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, and even, President Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that Barack Obama has the fewest amount of Twitter followers out of those groups. And so it's just kind of, you look at that, you're like, man, the people are there, people are using it. And the most important thing, I think, for the people that are watching this right now is that on the average, just people that are following, they've followed 5 different business accounts. And that leads to somebody buying something from that user, from that business.
Yeah, let's just pause and sit on that for a moment, because you're saying that the average Twitter user, which is 1/5 of the internet, or 1/5 of the population here in the United States, they are actively following, engaging with 5 brands or organizations, and then 1/3 of those are actively doing commerce or some kind of call to action. They're actually following through with that brand or organization.
Yeah. So what that means is that it's not just fluff. No. What's happening on Twitter isn't just fluff. It isn't just for casual connection. It has that value, but it's ultimately informing people on where are they investing. For a lot of people, the most important thing, their money. And so that means as an organization, it's definitely a platform you need to have a presence on. You need to make sure you're engaging, regularly posting, and so forth. And so we're going to talk about that, what's good for language. But ultimately, you need to make sure that you set up some kind of presence and engagement.
Yeah, so let's go right to it. What's the top line 1 or 2 things why we should look at Twitter for an organizational perspective?
So as an organization, it's really important because it's how you meet new people. It's Facebook is one of those things that tend to be very personal. And it's obviously important to have a Facebook page, but on Twitter, it's really a great way to connect with new people. It's actually the way we first interacted. The interesting part of Twitter dynamic is, you'll be interacting with somebody, tweeting. Tweeting is pretty much just you're sending a message back and forth. And on Twitter, it's public. And what happens is somebody can tag somebody else into the conversation, meaning that they can reference their individual account. And that means all of a sudden you get thrown into it. And so I think we were interacting with somebody else, and then all of a sudden we got tagged like, hey, Kenny, you should know Jay. Jay, you should know Kenny. And then all of a sudden it was like we're hanging out at a party and someone just pulled you in and pulled us in and said, hang out and meet each other. And that's the beauty part of Twitter, is that you can meet new people very easily. And as an organization, it's a way you can engage people and meet new customers or potential people that might attend your church.
Yeah, I always say Twitter's like, the metaphor for Twitter is it's a cocktail party. And that what you're doing is basically you can overhear anybody's conversation in that room because it's an open environment, and then you can quickly insert yourself into the conversation. You can have multiple conversations going at the same time. You can leave the room and come back and still be in the conversation. And this is exactly right. It's one of the platforms where you can meet new people easily.
Yeah, and it's just people that I've seen do this really strategically is like with churches. I've seen churches search. There's one of the language that you see a lot with, and Jimmy Fallon and people have made jokes about the hashtag. They'll do like the hashtag. So hashtag. And when he's doing it, it's pretty cool. But hashtags are essentially ways to filter conversation. So you can create a tweet and you can do a hashtag at the end. And the idea is you can see everybody that does that hashtag, the pounds symbol, you can see all the tweets and you can filter everything out. And I've seen churches do this where everybody that does hashtag pray, and the way to connect with new people, churches will go in there and search everybody that's done hashtag pray, and then they will individually respond to prayer requests on the internet. And so it's a great way, instead of waiting for them to come to your church, you reach back out. And I've seen this with brands. brands will, Coca-Cola, and you can kind of name off the list. Brands will interact with people that have done hashtag cola or hashtag whatever it is, and that is a great way to go the extra mile. And instead of waiting for them to enter into your building or buy your product, you can be proactive and go out there and interact. And besides that, it's not just good for interacting with new people. It's a great way to just get content out there and start interacting. You know, with Twitter, the unique thing is you put something out there and it gets posted and it kind of goes and it kind of dies. It's like kind of timed decay kind of ideas that over time it just kind of goes. There's no really limits. Kind of, we were talking, it's almost a way you can just like vomit content out there. And so a lot of times, different events, people will live tweet. They'll live tweet at an event. So you might have, you might have a hashtag for an event, like hashtag, Blocktober, hashtag, live service. And the idea is that it doesn't matter. You can just create as many tweets as you want. A lot of other channels, if you do that, it becomes spammy.
Yes,
but
you don't
Twitter,
want to do that.
It doesn't.
Yeah, Twitter is definitely the place where you can have that stream of content ongoing, and then it's okay to do that. Again, it's like at a cocktail party. You can constantly be talking at a cocktail party.
Yeah.
And the hashtag stuff is, again, to go back to the cocktail party, it's as if you can scan an entire room and just listen in on all the conversations that someone's talking about that specific topic or keyword instantaneously and filter out everybody else at the cocktail parties, right?
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. Let's talk about some lingo. What are some of the buzzwords or jargon that people need to get to if they're going to jumpstart into this world?
So on Twitter, some basic language, tweet. Tweet is just literally, it's Facebook, it's post. Twitter, it's tweet, and it's 140 characters, and it's something you can get out, and it's just something that
status update.
It's your status update. And
what's this thing of I've heard this retweet thing.
Retweet's really important. So on Twitter, when you're interacting with other people, what you can do is that you can repost their content. And so the idea is that a retweet is literally you are retweeting their tweet, and you're representing it as you can just repost it. And so
why would I want to retweet something? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so example. Let's say, for example, if it's like a political season and you see a candidate has just won that maybe you voted for or you rally behind, and they said, we just won, the 2016 election. You can go in, instead of having to write your own post on it, you can go in and retweet their post. And the beauty part of it is it shares their profile. So sometimes on different content, you have to do like the dash and, Jesus said this, or, Barack Obama said this. With this, it actually shows the entire profile. So it's a great way to retweet and kind of show people you rally behind, you support. You may not want to do a candidate, but there's brands that you engage in, you can just retweet. Another one is reply.
Yes.
It's kind of like you can reply to somebody is the way you can interact with an individual. And
that's
tweet.
Public, right? Those conversations are public.
Those are all public.
And you want that to be public sometimes.
You want that.
Right?
Yeah, that's the beauty part of Twitter. Everything except for direct messages are public, and that's what's amazing is that brands out there have this public identity that sometimes it can become customer support sometimes because you're interacting. It's been done negative and very positive. There's been backlashes and great movements, and so it's a great way to interact and have a public presence, because then if somebody has for example, if you have a product that breaks or your website for your church or your organization goes down, you can publicly reply, and then people can see that, so they can see that, hey, they're on that, they're working on that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of transparency.
Right,
definitely. And that goes a long way in this day and age on the digital Twitterverse, as we say. What about lists? There's this tool that not many people actually utilize. Can you tell us about Twitter lists?
Twitter lists are great because with Twitter, or at least the highly active users, you're following a lot of people. And sometimes, just like a Facebook feed, it can get very clouded. And so with lists is that you have the option to create pretty much a list of people on different topics. So you might want to create a list on social media influencers. You might want to create a list on, like I follow, I'm going to make myself feel very old here, but I'm not. But I follow people that play on the PGA Tour. People that have Twitter, so you can follow all these different lists, and pretty much it's just a way to categorize, here are their tweets, and then you can see all their tweets. So instead of seeing everybody at once, you can see just the people that are on the PGA Tour, or people that are just your online influence. Just like I have a list for family, I have a list for friends,
right.
I have a list for...
And those are public too, right? So
yeah, and you have the option of making it private if you want.
Right, so if you have a list that you've already curated a list of PGA golfers or PGA related stuff, I can come along and subscribe to your
can subscribe
list.
to that list.
You've done all the work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all the people's feeds, all the status updates of people on your list come into, I start to see them.
Yeah, and so one great thing that you can do as an organization is that you can create a list of all your staff on your account. So you can have one if you're for a church, a nonprofit, whoever. You can create a list so everybody, they can know everybody. For example, we have a list at Saddleback Church of everybody who's on staff. So if somebody wanted to subscribe to see everybody, they can just go there and follow the list. They don't have to individually follow everybody.
Great. Or even subgroups, right? It's kind of like, hey, if you have a club or group or little subgroup, you can create a list of those people, and it helps them connect with each other.
Yeah,
right.
And it's very organic as you're searching, and we've already used some of this language already. But hashtags are just ways to filter conversations. And actually, if you're on Twitter, hashtags, if they're with the pound symbol, you can click on it. It's hyperlinked, so you can filter. And as you're seeing hashtags, a lot of times you can find lists there organically as well.
Definitely. And we talked about trends in Facebook. Talk about quickly just trends on Twitter.
Yeah, so trends on Twitter pretty much is a way to see when you log in on your desktop, and you can do it on the mobile app as well. It's just to see what's popular. It's a great way to see activity. A lot of people, the stats out there, people under 30, they find their news through trends. It's actually kind of creepy because to think like you can start a fake trend movement, but really the idea is that you can see what's talked about, and it's a great way as a brand. You should try to interject yourself into that conversation as much as possible using hashtags.
Yeah, definitely. So breaking news this is a great place to see that.
Yeah.
If something's going on, we used to say, hey, turn on CNN or turn on the TV, but now a lot of people say, hey, let's just go on Twitter and see what's trending, because someone's probably either there live tweeting it or second order, third order has more information than what CNN has, right?
Exactly.
Great. So let's talk about some of the tools that people use to manage Twitter, because Twitter can be overwhelming to manage all that by yourself.
Yeah, so two of the tools that we've already talked about in a previous session was one with Hootsuite. You can use Hootsuite to schedule all your content. So the idea is you don't have to go to multiple places to schedule content. You can go in there and schedule Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And you also, on Twitter, you can reply and retweet and favorite and interact with your community right there. So Hootsuite's a great first step to kind of get in there and get your content and reply. So instead of having to logging into multiple websites, you do it in one place. It's a third-party app. It's very helpful. And then also Wishpond. We talked about this with Facebook, but on Twitter, you can create campaigns and contests. You can even create campaigns and contests through using hashtags. So maybe if you want to claim a hashtag, like hashtag the name of your organization or the name of the campaign, and then you can do a giveaway, and that way it can track everybody who uses that, and then that way you can pick a user and send them the free product or the resource that you want to give, and that's a great resource.
Yeah. What about images? Are images fair play on Twitter? Is it all text only? Or
Yeah, no, images are definitely fair play on Twitter. They're definitely not as powerful as on other platforms because definitely text is probably the thing that rules on Twitter, because most time you're just seeing a bunch of things going through, but definitely there's an advantage to having a powerful image on Twitter, and you can use things like Canva, as we talked about previously, to create very powerful and slick images that represent your identity, your brand wisely. I've heard about this, and I wanted to hear from you, the Buffer app. Tell a little bit about that.
Yeah, Buffer is one of those scheduling apps. So Hootsuite has an instance where you can actually bulk upload tweets and pre-schedule them. Buffer is very similar, that you can actually pre-write and upload the tweets, but Buffer also schedules it with a little bit of intelligence. So it actually looks at when your followers are have the highest engagement with your own feed, and then it optimizes when it actually. So you hand over a little bit of control of the time of day and day of the week, but then it figures out and it actually puts it out there for the most effectiveness. So it's another great scheduling tool out there.
And I think a first, really, your guys' homework assignment right now, after you're done with this, is that open up a Google Doc or an Excel spreadsheet and just go 1 through 20. And list out different posts and limit it to 140 characters. It might be something to get used to. You can even open up Word. You can kind of count how many characters are included. But create 20 tweets that you can start using, and think about hashtags and just list them out. if you're a church, use different scriptures that are powerful. List different quotes. You can use things like brainyquotes.com, I think is one. You can get powerful quotes around different topics. If you're a brand, list out some engaging facts about your product or your organization.
Yeah, factoids and stats.
Exactly. But list out 20 of them right now after this, so you can start engaging and getting a jump start on this, on the Twitter, atmosphere.
Definitely. And even just so an advanced super user tip is in Excel or Google Sheets, right? You can actually have a function equal len parentheses, and then you click on the column.
My brain just went.
But basically, you can actually calculate how many characters automatically is on that other cell. And so we have it set up. And actually, we don't try to max it out to 140 characters. We actually try to do 120-ish.
Yeah.
Because you want a little bit of extra room. Why would you want a little bit of extra room?
Because you want people to be able to reply, to interact with that.
Yeah.
So if you're retweeting that, interacting, it starts limiting the reach. And then some of your content might be cut off. So it is a hard discipline. That's why your homework assignment is to go in and create 20 tweets. Try to do the 120 characters to start training your mind.
Yeah, and then you can either schedule them automated, or you can actually use them, copy paste, and send them out.
Yeah.
Great. So that's Twitter in a nutshell. Hopefully that's enough for you to jumpstart into that social media network. What's the network we have next lined up for the next session?
The next session, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn, and we're going to talk to some jumpstart of why LinkedIn is important, why it's not just a business platform. There's really a lot more that you need to know about LinkedIn. So stay tuned to the next episode, and make sure you do your homework assignment.